We've come here today to talk about cognition and combating difficulties within MS. As occupational therapists, we work for Barts Health in a community neuro-based team. So we work with a wide ranging of different clients with cognitive difficulties, including people with MS. So we're going to talk about what cognitive difficulties are, but first I thought that we would have a look at what cognition is. We hear that term bandied about a bit, but I thought we'd just give you a little explanation of what cognition means. It's the mental process of knowing. It includes aspects such as awareness and perception, being able to reason, being able to judge, things like that, planning, etc. As you can see from the slide, some of the problems experienced by people with cognitive difficulties include things like poor concentration, reduced memory, reduced visual spatial skills, planning abilities, verbal fluency, both taking in information and output, verbal output, and reduced speed of thought, or that kind of general fuzziness. So when we talk about poor concentration, we often describe this, or people describe it as having brain fog or fuzziness. When OTs talk about it, you'll often hear us talk about attention rather than concentration. We'll look at a person might have experience problems with keeping their attention on a task, being able to focus on a specific task, or being able to divide their attention between a couple of different tasks. So what might be difficult for a person might be while cooking, they're unable to hold a conversation with somebody at the same time. Or if there's background noise, that might completely reduce their attention. When we talk about reduced visuospatial skills, we're referring to how people relate visual information to the space around them. So if you can judge distance and speed when you're driving, knowing when you're walking through a door, being able to accurately perceive where that doorway is rather than banging into the side of it. So what factors impact on cognitive difficulties? Well, things like medication, fatigue, MS itself, depression and anxiety, and infection. So some medications can exacerbate cognitive problems. For example, some side effects of medications would be things like include drowsiness, and that will impact upon attention. MS itself can impact. The nerve cells carrying the information around get damaged, so the speed of processing is impacted, or the accuracy of information that's been taken in can be greatly reduced. Fatigue also slows processes, or thinking processes. It slows them down, and we often talk to people about managing their fatigue through pacing, planning those more difficult tasks that they need to do at a time of day when they're able to concentrate. Similarly, depression and anxiety can also drain cognitive abilities. It can make a person feel more tired or disinterested in the task that they're trying to carry out. Depression and anxiety can affect the cognitive processes in a similar way to fatigue. And finally, a dip in cognitive abilities could be brought on by an infection. So for allied health professionals, so therapists, doctors, carers, it's really important that we're checking if there's anything wrong medically, and that could be why the person's been affected. In the next couple of slides, we thought what we'd do is some of the things that people often say to us and strategies that we find works for some people. A variety of strategies might work. For example, I forgot where I've put my things. So having a fixed routine, keeping items in a set place, things like keys, your mobile phone, if they're kept in one place, it can be a lot easier for a person to develop a routine and remember where they've put them. Checking things are in their key places. So, for example, before going to bed, making sure that you've checked that everything should be where it was the day before. Some people find keeping some kind of an item on the back of the door, like a canvas tidy. It's got pockets in it, so they can put their glasses, their mobile phone, etc., in those little pockets. Making lists of items can help some people. They can keep this on their fridge door, etc. Things like, I keep my purse in my coat pocket, and that can help remember where they've put things. Some people find personal association, so thinking about things like I leave my keys on the table next to the family photograph, and that helps them associate the family keys, the house keys. Or having a bag insert. For those of us that would have several bags, we can put our things into an insert and just transfer it to another bag, and we've everything that we need to hand. In the next slide, one of the areas also that people say is, I forget to take my tablets. So how do they overcome that? The use of a diary or an alarm system can be helpful, because mobile phones can be used as a prompt to remember when to take your medications. Again, post-it notes on the fridge door can help. It helps to remind you of appointments and when to take your medications. Using a dosset box for those that rely on visual prompts to remember the medications. Creating an email or text, and there are now apps that you can download for free or purchase, and it will tell you the dosage you need to take and remind you when to take your tablets. Taking your tablets your medication when you carry out another activity. So if you always take your tablets after you've eaten your meal, it can help you remember to take them at that time as well. Leaving medications out somewhere easy so you spot them. Or if you're living with somebody, if you're a family member, using them to prompt you when to take your medications. In the next slide, this one again comes around to concentration or attention. So scheduling important appointments or discussions at a time of day when you're least fatigued. Alternating short bursts of reading, for example, with another activity, so that you're not trying to concentrate for too long on something and unable to take the information in. Reviewing what you're reading. Some people use this at the ad break, for example, watching a program. They review what they've watched on TV so that they can take up the plot again when the TV program starts. If your attention wanders during conversation, for example, some people find that if they summarize what the person has said to them, then it helps them recap what the person said and they can continue the conversation. And lastly, keeping distractions to a minimum. So if you're trying to concentrate on something, make sure you remove any background noise such as TV or radio.
So as I've been going around, a lot of people have asked me about what's the best thing for cognitive impairment, what can I do to make things better. So I'm going to go a little bit off slide. So what we've done is we've obviously put a list of practical tips around different problems that we found that people were discussing on internet forums. So I'll let you kind of read those at your leisure. So the main thing is kind of thinking about what cognitive rehab would involve. And so the strategies that we've given you here today are part of that. So we usually give a fourfold kind of strategy. So compensation is kind of using external aids to help you to do things. So kind of relying on an external brain, so writing things down, getting people to remind you are good examples of that. The other one is kind of doing things in activity. So practice, repetition is an effective way to kind of ensure that you learn new skills and take that skill learning from a kind of very focused and having to concentrate on that task to being very automatic, a bit like, when you learn how to drive. Initially it's hard, but repetition increases your ability to do that task without thinking about it as thoroughly. The big question that I've had as I've been going around is about kind of exercises that you can do yourself. So I've talked to a lot of people about brain training exercises, so kind of apps on your phone, computer games, puzzles like Sudoku. So what I've been saying as I've been going around is actually it depends on what your problem is. So for people that have concentration problems, things like those apps would be really good because it increases the amount of time that you're able to attend to something, and that in itself might impact on your ability to remember things, but it's not going to necessarily transfer over to whether you can learn to play the piano. It's kind of it will help you with that one task only. So you do Sudoku, you'll get better at Sudoku, but it won't necessarily improve other things. So kind of what occupational therapists do is to look at the task that you're having problems with and to analyse what you're having problems with specifically, and to kind of give you directed tasks so that you can improve on the things that you're finding difficult. So I think we're kind of coming to the end of our time. That was very subtle, wasn't it? You know, obviously we're around for the rest of the afternoon. I hope you find the practical tips useful. Ask us any questions, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. We just find that sometimes with some medications there are side effects in it, just to be aware that it could be something like that. It's not necessarily always MS related itself, but in any kind of, we work with a wide variety of people with cognitive problems, and sometimes side effects of kind of general medications as well could be just being more drowsy, and that will obviously affect your cognition.
I think with any kind of symptoms, if you talk to your neurologist at your next appointment, and they can look at the particular medications that you're taking and do an analysis to see if there's anything that could be causing that problem.
Another question or comment here?
Comment is, hopefully you don't have to wait to see your neurologist the next time. Hopefully you will be able to ring your MS nurse. Thirdly, please don't assume, and that's what they've just been trying to explain, that every medication is going to make you drowsy. And please don't assume that you're going to have to stop taking all those useful medications just in order to keep yourselves awake. A lot of what we do as MS nurses is to try and balance out your medications, or possibly change one medication for another medication where it does roughly the same thing, but possibly with less sedating side effects, and that's something which we can help you try out. We can't tell you how it's going to work because not all drugs work the same way for all patients. It's one of those great big medical myths that they do. And finally, I would say be proactive about it. That's what we're there for. And if you suspect that medication may be a problem, tell us, because neurology appointments are not that thick on the ground that I would like you to be waiting around for that long.
Okay.